I never thought that one of these would become my new favourite golf club. And for a long time, this part of the bag has seen many, many changes. But using this club has made the game so much easier and a lot more fun. And I think it's a club that a lot of people should be using. And the reason the game has become a little bit easier and a lot more fun is because the club that is now my favourite actually sits in a part of the bag that is very hard for golfers to hit. And the club that I'm referring to is not this one, the 2 wood, it's actually this one, the 7 wood. That's gone so high, tiny divot, and it just pops up so easy. And stay to the end of this video because I'm going to make a bold prediction about another club and its future in the game. So why has the 7 wood become my favourite club and ousted the hybrid and the driving iron out of my bag? And if you're thinking as well of playing one of these clubs, these few reasons that I'm going to give you now hopefully will help you understand if it is something that is in your bag. Now for me, when we're playing the game of golf, our main thing when selecting our equipment is that we should have an objective of it, A, doing a job, it should be fit for purpose, but making that job a little bit easier. We want to make the game as easy as possible. And what I was finding with these clubs here was that if I went into the 2 iron, for instance, I started with this and it was the club that's sort of seen as the cool pro club. We see a lot of the tour pros getting them, especially around the open time. And that's because it's one-dimensional in a reason. They're obviously elite ball strikers. I am not. The majority of people watching my videos aren't. And what I find with something like the 2 iron, albeit, yes, it looks great behind the golf ball when we're on the tee and on the fairway, but the problem is that here we are at 221 yards out on the 4th hole at Bethpage Black. When I'm trying to hit this shot into this green, and I've hit that pretty darn well, and I've just turned it ever so slightly, it's just not got that launch. It was very flat, it turns a little bit easier, and it's a little bit harder to manage. Now off the tee, it's quite a good club in terms of being able to just peg it down low and get it bunted forwards and get it running. But in terms of versatility wise, what I find on these shots here, especially off the fairway and out of a little bit of light rough or slightly heavier rough, when you're further out and it becomes imperative that you're getting a good strike, like that's as good as I can hit it. It's launched up, but I've almost tried to help it up there to make sure I get it up, and evidently I've missed the green there. It's just a little bit hard to manage, and that's where maybe then the rescue wood was coming in, something that I would have in my bag quite a lot. I sort of resigned myself to the fact that, oh, I shouldn't really have a 2 iron in my bag. I know I shouldn't, but when it has a few good shots, I'll stick it in there, I'll keep with it, as where when it goes bad, right, we'll fall back to the hybrid. And this starts to get a little bit easier with the hybrid club. We see that they are a little bit bigger in size, so there's a little bit more real estate behind the golf ball, a slightly shallower face, and just as a caveat, all these clubs are at 19 degrees. And this club, for me, off the tee, again, good, pops it up. Off the fairway, good, pops it up pretty well. You can see there, oh, just leaked a little bit. Not quite the distance we would want and not the direction we would want. Again, are we answering that question of, is it the easiest thing to hit? Because for me, out of a little bit of rough and a little bit of heavier rough, this is where this club ever so slightly falls down. And as regular viewers will know, I spend a lot of my time in the rough. Now that is as good as I can hit it. But again, it's got that little bit of curvature on it. It's popped up. It's nearly there. Well, it has just made the fringe, but it's not done everything it should be doing for me in terms of making the game as easy as possible. As where, when the 7 wood comes in, and I think for a long time they were thought as beginner clubs. You know, if you struggle to get the golf ball in the air, get a 7 wood. Even now we're seeing 9 woods in fashion. I've got a video coming on that very soon as well. But this thing now, when I put it behind the golf ball, and we think of that question of, or that statement of making the game as easy as possible, just having that extra real estate and looking down on it with that slightly shallower face, I know that even off the fairway, out of a slightly sat down lie or off the tee, I can just put a normal swing on it and it just pops it up in the air, and I really notice the curvature starting to be limited, just because it's starting to get a little bit much more backspin as I'm starting to hit it, so it straightens the flight out. So that, to me, is just making the game easy. So if you're someone who's looking for that little bit more launch, especially off the fairways, if you struggle with 3 woods, 5 woods, this is a great place to look, because it just pops it up in the air, and with that added spin, it keeps it pretty straight. Even that was a poor strike, slightly towed, and look at that, 2 pretty much identical golf shots just by actually getting it popped up in the air to start. Why else has it become my favourite club though? And the second reason as to why the 7-wood has become my favourite club, number one was obviously that ease of use, that launch that we saw there in the simulator, but here out on the golf course is that it's so versatile. There's lots of scenarios we can use this golf club in. For instance, here, a par 4 or a longer par 3, this one being 225 yards today, into a little bit of wind. The 7-wood's going to be perfect. I'd potentially be hitting that hybrid, that 2-iron that I've got to get the strike right on, or I may be even trying to be hitting a long iron. But with this 7-wood, I know it's going to pop up off the tee, it's going to climb nice and high and come in at quite a good descent angle to get the ball stopping on the green pretty quickly. And also, if I don't strike it, I know that it's still going to get up to where I want it to. And that's a great example there. Not my best strike, very limited curvature, and just climbs up onto the front edge of the green. It's just so good, it just pops it up off the tee. Yes, it goes higher, and it's one that you maybe would lose a little bit of yardage into in distance, but off that tee, if you're nervous off the tee, it's a great one just to get it launched up towards target. Let's find out where else you can use it. The other thing that I really like about the 7-wood is the versatility from fairway to rough. For instance, here, 230 yards to this flag on the 18th hole at Warrington. I'm just in the fairway. I know that it's going to launch easier than a 5-wood, than a 3-wood, than I would do with a 2-iron. I'm confident when I put this in behind the golf ball that I'm going to be able to pop it up, even if it's sat down a little bit nasty or the fairway's a little bit bare. I just know as long as I put a half decent swing on it, this thing is getting airborne and it's going out towards my target. Just so easy to pick off, even that a little bit out the bottom, finds the front of the green, and it's just an easy thing to use off the fairway. But then if I do just wander over here to a little bit of rough and we see the ball sat down, once I put the club in behind the golf ball, there's going to be that little bit of grass and ball there. But the beauty is I still know that this thing is just going to pop up. If I were to be using a long iron, let's say I was 220 or 215, and I was thinking of a 4-iron, maybe a 5-iron, because of the flat face, the deeper face, the ball isn't going to come out as well. Also, because of this wider sole and a little bit more weight of the bottom, I know that it's going to launch, and because it's got a slightly shallower face, it's easier to dig through the rough. That's why we see the likes of Tommy Fleetwood, other pros adopting these, even going into 9-woods, Adam Scott, other pros during the US Open, PGA Championship, they were using 7-woods and 9-woods for when they got into a little bit of a tangly rough. They know that from these distances, yes, you're not going to get your full distance, but what you're able to do is get a little bit more of a descending blow, and I know that I might even get this ball there because it's going to pop out nicely out of this rough lie. Popped out a little bit pushy, but it's launched high and it's got nearly all the way there. It's such an easy club to use out of the rough, opposed to trying to use a longer iron. Let's take a look at something else where it might come in really handy. Another great use for the 7 wood as well, because of the bigger sole and the loft, if you do get into a fairway bunker and you've got a nice lie, you can just pick the shot off here and just let it pop out. As where if I was trying to hit a 4-iron hybrid or a driving iron, I would struggle with this, as where just try and take a small little divot and it pops this ball straight up out and you're back in play. Easy. And another reason where it becomes very versatile is shots like this around the green, where we get a lot of grass when you sat up against the fringe covering the golf ball. If you were to use a putter, because of the lack of loft and the grass that gets caught in front of the face and the ball, it's not going to go. So the 7 wood from here is easy, just to adopt your normal putting posture, and then from there make a putting stroke, and all it does is just lift it out, sets it on his way, and hopefully you'll just hold it like that. That's why they're so good. If you're struggling with chipping, come on, who doesn't want a little bit of that in the game? So is the 7 wood for you? Could it become your favourite golf club like it has done mine? And as I said earlier, I think it is one that we're going to see in a lot more players' bags, and I think a lot more players should be using it. You're getting maximum forgiveness, you're getting the distance that you would do from a hybrid, a 2-iron, and it's so versatile. We're going to see them coming out, and my bold prediction is that the 7 woods, the 9 woods, I think we're going to see hybrids being obsolete in the next couple of years. The revolution of the fairway wood is going to be back. We're going to see 7 woods, 9 woods, 11 woods in a lot more golfers' bags. Guys, why not check out another video here to see if you're making some common mistakes with your equipment as well.